Musashi Daisuke Smith. Where the fuck did she go? He yelled out as he raced back into the walls of the dojo. Fucking damn it. This was supposed to happen outside the dojo. Sensei wouldn't interfere, but there would be trouble after if they caused trouble here. She jumped on the roof. Misaki is fucked. One of his chums called out in Japanese. Looking over, Misaki was indeed fucked. The girl looked like her face was punched in. Fuck. Murataka was not going to be pleased about his netrunner getting hurt. Find the bitch. Lock the entrance, keep an eye on the walls. There is no way out except through here. Watch her car. He called out and the men all nodded. Musashi wasn't the highest ranked member in the TC, but his grandfather was well respected, and that carried a lot of weight. It was why he could take on the name Musashi and no one argued against it. He would live up to it regardless. Fuck all those fools that mocked him for his choice. He would show the tiger claws his worth. But first he needed to beat this girl black and blue. Maybe take one of her legs. She had already lost both arms, so what was one more limb? If that bitch hadn't tricked him and beaten him in the match in front of everyone, then maybe he wouldn't need to cut her to make sure she understood. He had only lost because they were fighting with stupid Shinai and not live steel. Fucking sensei. That old man didn't understand that a true samurai needed live steel to show his true talent. And fuck that little whore for mocking him. Him. She was nothing. A fucking street rat that was only allowed around because her brother was a weapon for the kamikaze. Find her. He yelled and his men ran off. A few were helping each other to climb onto the roof to find her. He stomped around. Already he could see Sensei coming out to the front of the dojo, but with a look the older man took in what was happening and he stopped. He didn't interfere, but his eyes went yellow as he made a call. Tisk. They needed to find her. Now, before Fujimura-sama was informed, and that fucking trash Oni showed up. Murataka-sama would not be pleased if his desire to have leverage failed. Murataka-sama's son, Kizaru, had nearly been killed by some trash wannabe, and he was not pleased. The Oni had knew the assassin in question. Now Murataka-sama had plans to force Fujimura-sama into something, but it would all fail if they didn't have the girl. What the fuck was she made of? Who just leapt over 10-foot walls without trouble? Of course she had chrome, her brother was the Oni, but this was too much. Where is she? He yelled again but received no response. Only confused looks from his chums as they hadn't found anything. She's not a fucking ghost, find her, is that what you think? He stilled, nearly jumping at the voice in his ear. He glanced around in shock before calming, realizing what had happened. A call had gone through his agent without even ringing, and the girl was talking to him. Give up, when we find you I will ensure you will not escape again. Surrender now and perhaps it will not be permanent. That's cute coming from some nobody. You dare. I am a dead man. Fuck. Musashi. Brian is dead. What? He cut the call and rushed over. Around the corner in the alley was Brian. Brian, who was stupid, but good muscle. Musashi kept him around because the boy had no ambition. He just liked hurting people and that was good enough for him. He was dead. Throat cut open and left in the middle of the alley. The basement. She went into the dojo. He yelled out, noticing some blood stains on the door. Should we even go in? One of his men asked, and he scoffed. Let me handle the thinking, get the girl. The boys rushed in to find her, and Musashi grimaced. This was already becoming an issue. You won't find me in there. The call hadn't ended. He had ended the call, and yet it was still connected. You're a netrunner. It clicked, and he grimaced. That was bad. Oh? You didn't know that? No. No, I refuse to believe you morons didn't do any research into your target before you tried to kidnap me. Maelstrom did more research when they tried it. Are you stupider than a bunch of Maelstrom goons? You're a nobody. You may have some talents, but they don't matter. You won't escape. Escape? Oh, you poor fool. I'm not running. Musashi. Carter. He's fucked. Stabbed through. What? He looked towards his men, the idea of Carter dying. That was impossible. He followed towards the other side of the dojo and there was Carter. His own katana stabbed through his heart. How is this happening? Musashi. This isn't right. Something's wrong. Shut up. I know that. This was falling apart, and he had no idea how. You should call for help. You'll need more men at this rate. Fuck you. I'll cut off one of your limbs for every one of my tombs you've killed. Unfortunately for you, I don't have that many limbs left. So I guess there is no point in me stopping. He blinked at her tone. The amusement was obvious. This fucking whore. He was going to. Musashi. A voice called out and he looked away. And he already knew what he was about to be told. You're trying to distract me. Keep me from focusing you down. Is that what you think? You really don't understand what kind of situation you're in. Fuck off. He forced the call to end and focused. Stay together. She is picking us off one by one. Move in groups. No one gets left alone. He roared and then despite himself he did something she had suggested. Murataka-sama, forgive me for the impudence. We have a problem. He began once the ringing ended, and the call went through. Explain. Now. Murataka growled and Musashi felt his status plummet. She's dangerous. She's killed some of my men. I need more people here to make sure she can't slip away. She's a netrunner, and already knocked out Misaki before we could react. My apologies. Foolish. I should have sent someone competent, if this is the result. I am sending Komorebi. Hold her until he gets there if you can do at least that. That won't be a problem, I have no intention of going anywhere. A voice cut in and Musashi stilled. The girl. She was on the line. Who is this? Musashi? Musashi tried to speak, but instantly he realized his line was cut off. His voice wasn't going through his own agent. This is Motoko. Musashi is still here, but I hacked into his agent forever ago. So you're the one that wanted to kidnap me, huh? Murataka scoffed before responding. You are being ordered to appear before me. You could have just called, instead you sent a hit squad my way. I've already killed a few of them. Why should I not continue? She asked, still sounding mocking. Killing a few pathetic boys that can't even complete a task isn't my concern. You will come one way or another. Once this Komorebi gets here, you mean? I don't like threats. You wanted to play it this way, so I'm treating it like that. I'm going to kill all the boys you send here. Then, once you stop sending them, I'm going to come for you. The call went quiet for a while and Musashi eventually tried to continue. Is it working? I hear you, Musashi. Find her. Collect her, be as brutal as you like. Yes, sir. Musashi agreed, and the call ended. Fuck, she had just challenged Murataka-sama. She was going to die now. Musashi? Just find her already. Murataka-sama says not to be gentle. Collect her. Are you a tiger or not? He roared out and his men got back to it. He started looking as well, but as he searched, he only found dead bodies, and the cowering fools that Sensei had gathered into the dojo. Have you seen her? He demanded loudly and no one spoke. Not even Sensei, who just looked on with a firm look. Derision evident. Speak. Murataka-sama has given these orders. He yelled out to the group, but no response came. Just the students who were cowering in fear at the death surrounding them, and those that were calmly sitting Caesar waiting, for they had protection, or had felt danger before. It kept growing quieter. He looked around, checking the room but found no one. Only Carlos, who had stuck to his side when he ordered everyone to go in pairs. He charged out, But as he went from room to room he realized with horror. Josh was dead, neck cut, hanging over the railing for the stairs. Mitchell, his partner, had his brains blown out over the wall. Everywhere he went he found his tombs dead, not a single one of them seemed to have been alive long enough to call for help. Musashi felt fear, and he realized that there was almost no one left. Follow, he demanded, and Carlos did. The half-Mexican boy was quick on his feet, and he had long put away the blades he had handed out for the reassuring weight of a unity. Musashi raced through the dojo for the front, ignoring the look Sensei had left him. The man's heavy gaze didn't matter to Musashi. He had outgrown this place. He raced out and then through the gate to find. He stilled, as the loud ringing noise of metal on metal rang out. The girl was here, back to him, and the ringing noise was her cleaning the blade of blood, by placing it into the crook of her elbow and sliding it through. Chrome on blade had left the noise loud enough that no one could have missed it. Carlos beside him pointed his gun. But a moment later she was there, a Sandevistan. She had moved so fast, Carlos had fired twice and missed, and then he was dead. The blade she held cut his head off in a single move as she blurred past him, practically brushing him without actually touching him. He jerked around, almost happy to look away. His tombs that had been left behind to watch her car were dead. She had been cleaning their blood off her blade when he arrived. He only had his sword, and he drew it as he spun, preparing for an attack, but it didn't come. She was standing there a few feet from him. Far enough to give Musashi a moment, but close enough to be dangerous. Her eyes, her face, her body language all spoke of how calm she was. Despite blood splashing across her cheek giving her a sinister edge, she didn't seem bothered, her breathing was even and relaxed, and the blade she held at her side didn't waver. He shivered. Was it cold here? He felt cold. A chill. Was this Saki? The air of murder? He knew some of the true samurai in the tiger claws spoke of it at times. But to feel it from this girl? She was just a kid. This was insufferable. I'll kill you for this. He hissed rage, taking away the fear. He aimed his blade knowing the girl was at least honorable enough for this. Trash that she was. You know? I haven't actually had a real sword fight before. I wonder. Are you enough to test my limits? She asked, as calm as ever and completely unbothered by the death surrounding her. Say that again when I have your limbless body on the ground. He growled out, but unlike any normal fool that heard his words, she just smirked, seemingly amused more than threatened. Musashi breathed. He had subtle chrome, things that a good swordsman needed. He could do this, he simply needed to surprise her. That shouldn't be hard. He hadn't used his best moves on her during their one spar, he wouldn't waste such things on trash. Not when he wanted to aim for the top. To defeat Sensei. To defeat Norio-sama. To defeat them all, and become Musashi. Are you going to stare at me? Or are we oh there we go? She muttered as Musashi charged at her, taunting. He would silence her. His blade flashed, calm swipes, gently scraping along her blade, neither of them unskilled enough to have the actual edge of their blades touch, the sides of their swords used to deflect and adjust cuts, keeping the killing blade fresh. Again and again he swiped in, pushing, trying to use his strength and fury to intimidate, to dominate. Yet it failed. She was like water, sweeping his blade aside without struggle. And already Musashi knew to his fury that she was actually winning on technicalities. But this wasn't a spar. He locked the blade with her own, trying to catch her off guard, and pushed. He was bigger than her, stronger. He forced her back, and ran with her. While the street behind her was long, there were obstacles, and of course the dojo wall that he planned on bashing her against. He almost felt victory, but just as she was about to be pushed into the wall his charge was stopped. That's bullshit. He growled into her mocking smile. She had stretched out, right as she should have been pushed into the wall, and extended her right leg against the wall, and his charge had stopped cold as her chrome arms were more than enough to hold his blade from pushing her back any further. He had her en masse, but braced against the wall she stopped his push cold. Losers always call bullshit when they are losing. Losing? You are pinned. Die. He growled, throwing a forearm against the other side of his blade to push even harder, as he used his now freed left hand to dig into his jacket. She would die from a gun as easily as a blade. Before he could grab it, she scoffed, and suddenly she moved. Kicking off from her leg on the floor, she spun, causing his blade to arc through where she had been, but earning her freedom despite his wild swipe. If his other hand had been on the blade, she'd be dead. Instead, her blade flashed. Ah! He shrieked as flesh parted under the blade. He flinched away, forgetting his pistol for a moment as he swiped blindly to force her back as she stumbled away. She cut his cheek. No. No, no. No. He screamed as his face bled. This was impossible. He couldn't be cut by some no-name punk. Oh no, I think I broke his little fantasy. She muttered to herself and then sighed. What's wrong? Did you just realize that things aren't going the way you expected? Fuck you. He hissed once more, reaching for the gun, but a moment later she was there. His arm pinned down and blade against his throat. No. No. Her Sanderviston. She had moved too fast. Now. You're only keeping yourself alive because I'm enjoying something new. She offered as she slowly reached into his jacket and pulled free his pistol, tossing it up over his head over the wall. Then she backed away, adjusting the blade so it was at his throat until it was the very tip, and then he swiped it away, earning space from her. He was breathing heavily. His hands were shaking. He was afraid. This girl. This tiny miserable slip of a girl was going to kill him. He could see it. His arrogance had been cut from him. He was going to die. He was going to die. He was going to die. Oh! She muttered, her head cocking to the side, slightly seemingly amused as she watched him with those unblinking red eyes. Did you realize what sort of situation you are in now? She asked almost mockingly, as if his realization of the danger was funny. But before it could get worse, before she could finish him, he heard it. Motorcycles. He knew those engines, he just had to keep her distracted for a bit longer. Why, you know what's going to happen to you for this? I'm a Shati. You struck me. Killed my men, you'll be punished, and so will your brother. Unless you surrender now, kowtow thrice. I'll grant you forgiveness if you do. He taunted, knowing she would respond. Come on, just don't kill him, act like the superior bitch you've been acting up until now. Shati? Some bullshit title or something? Whatever, just sounds like I have more people to kill after this. She replied dryly and took a step forward. He stepped back, but his back hit the wall. Do you? Listen, if you are just buying time until they show up, I don't mind. I'll wait if you like, just shut up. Your voice makes me want to kill myself. She replied back, cutting him off, and Musashi just felt his jaw drop. Was this girl a moron? He kept his blade up, and his mouth shut, and then it happened. The sounds of bikes finally reached them. From around the corner a small squad of Tiger Claw killers came around. Engines rumbling as they drove up and parked. Kokomorebi-senpai. Please. She's. Silence. The man barked out, cutting Musashi off completely. He looked around, his face covered by his menpo. A sinister grin hid most of his emotion away as he looked from the dead bodies, to the girl, to him. You fucked this one up. She's. He didn't have the words. How could he describe a girl that murdered all of his people? That had proven his superior with a blade? I said silence. You girl. Kusasugi's sister. You will come with us. Muritaka-sama wants words with you. And I already told your boss that I would kill this sniveling trash, and any men he sends after me before hunting him down. She answered as calm as a summer shower. No hint of fear despite 4 real tiger claw killers here, despite Komorebi-senpai. The killing flashed standing against her. Hair. You got a mouth on you. Your brother isn't here to save you, nor will he. He's in enough trouble. Put the blade away and let's go. I have more important things to do than rescue a fuck-up from his failures. Senpai. Musashi muttered weakly, but no one looked at him, only the blade still pointed at him kept him still. Make me. She replied back just as calmly. Frankly, I was having a nice day until some dumbasses with more balls than brains decided to threaten me. I don't react well to threats. So unless someone starts giving me nice apologies, the only thing that is going to happen is me getting in some more fun sword fights. Komorebi looked between Musashi and the girl before nodding. You were in a match. Very well. Go ahead and finish it. Wa-senpai. You can't. For the last time. Silence. You fucked up. You even got yourself into a true battle and you beg for help. Either succeed and get the girl like you were supposed to, or die. Harsh. The girl offered, but then to his horror she turned her full attention to him. You can't. I'm still a. That's true. Komorebi-senpai spoke, cutting him off. If you kill him it'll be trouble. His grandfather has. Then Musashi blinked as there was a flash, a cold bite of something, and he blinked as the world around him spun around a few times. 750 XP gained. I swiped out, cleaning my borrowed blade of blood as I took Musashi's katana in my other hand. Sorry, I'm so tired of hearing people tell me how important they are. You were saying something? I asked the man that oozed danger. Even with the menpo he wore I could tell his jaw was open a bit as he realized what I had done. This had already gone way too far for me to care about future trouble. Tiger claws had come to kidnap and harm me. To hold me against June as far as I was concerned. Everyone needed to die. Well, I'll be damned. This might actually be interesting. He offered as he stepped forward, idly pulling off his menpo and tossing it behind him where one of his men snagged it. Komorebi Izuku. I have some stupid nickname that I don't care for. He greeted me slowly, drawing a pretty nice katana from his hip. Motoko Kusanagi. I like to go by Ghost in the Shell, but some of the tiger claws that know me call me the Onryo, or Yuri, I suppose. Hair. Fitting. He agreed, glancing at the dead bodies around me. You certainly are. I'll try not to kill you, but I can't allow you to resist. Those are my orders. When I take your life, I'll ensure your family know you died with a blade in your hand. I responded back just as smoothly, and the man actually looked pleased by my words. Fucking sword maniacs. Then again, I was about to have a katana battle myself, so how much room did I have to talk? I breathed in and out, and settled my stance. I would be on the defensive at first. I had no idea how good this guy was. Luckily I had 2 blades, and no one really expected the dual wielding to be effective. There was a flash of a headlights, a car traveling the street behind us, that set us off. He moved. Sandevistan. I recognized it and activated my own. He was still fast. Definitely a higher-end Sandy, he blurred, but the reaction time I gained was enough. His blade flashed, glowing under the streetlights, and I deflected it off with a twisting parry, and pushing him back with a swipe in turn. He stepped back, both of us turning off our Sandy as it would be needed for the future. The men behind him gasped in surprise. She blocked it. I blinked. Was that supposed to be some super move or something? Like light speed flash or something? Oh fuck. Right. These were tiger claws. I was dealing with a bunch of weebs. But the 2 of us didn't say anything, he simply went in again. This time he attacked with skill and not just speed, a surprisingly dangerous series of moves. Twice I had to actually step back despite having 2 blades to keep myself from being cut. This seemed to push him on, but as he continued he quickly realized the truth. He couldn't touch me. My defense was simply better, No matter how hard he tried to batter through, or slip a blade into openings, there simply wasn't enough for him to make the strike. Which is why I was watching calmly and prepared for when he would activate the Sandevistan again. Because that would be what determined the winner here. Who activated their chrome at the right time to slip a wound through before the other could activate their sandy and defend. We continued our battle, him hammering away, his endurance far greater than Musashi. Either good sin lungs, or just trained endurance. But the difference between Musashi and this guy was night and day. Musashi was a skilled, arrogant kid to Komorebi's actual worked in talent. Plus he had good chrome. This was much more fun. I felt myself growing a smile as we battled, a web of steel around us as I deflected and swiped, making sure he couldn't go entirely on the offense. The sing of steel scraping against steel filled the street, the sound of cars and people still all around us. For a moment I wasn't Motoko the Merc, I was Motoko the Street Samurai. Then it ended, not because one of us activated a sandy, or because a blade found flesh, but because suddenly Komorebi's eyes went yellow as he stepped back, getting distance before meeting my eyes. "Do you mind?" "Oh no, please go ahead," I offered back just as coolly, neither of us out of breath or even seemingly tired from our match. He nodded and took the call that came in, while I focused on what I had earned. Dozens of alerts flickered through my attention, but the ones that most interested me were ninjutsu of all things. I had felt it while hunting all the boys down, acting as a shadow, killing them one by one. Ninjutsu skill level up. 1 perk point gained. Ninjutsu 10. I had felt it, and used it in the last little fight. There had been no doubt in my mind while ripping these idiots apart that they could find me unless I wanted them to. Now I had an extra perk. To grow even further beyond the skill. I looked through the list while Komorebi continued to have a seemingly serious conversation. I searched, using the time to try and find the perfect option considering that there wasn't much else to do. There were a few things that caught my eye, but one of them finally made me lock it in. Ninja running, not being seen is stealth as well. Move quietly, and quickly. I blinked and a whole world of information slipped into my mind. I knew exactly how long it would take to move out of someone's line of sight, and how to move fast enough to escape it. I felt myself smiling despite the situation when I realized that I could go full Batman on people and disappear as they looked away. How fun. I also had a half-dozen blades XP. Which was a lot for just one fight. 100 blades XP gained. Komorebi spent a little longer on the phone call before finally his eyes blinked and the light disappeared. "It seems this situation has reached the higher-ups," he offered with a sigh. Looking almost disappointed. "Our little match is over." "Oh?" I asked, not bothering to hide the sinister edge to my words. I had promised to murder anyone that stupid mob boss and after me. "Apologies, but I am being recalled. A meeting has been called about this situation. I no longer need to bring you in." I felt like twitching even if I didn't move. Of course I would find an actual sword battle to the death and it would end early. I wanted it to continue. To cut down this fucking gangster and his men, and then go and assassinate the man that was responsible for all of this. But a moment later I got a call, my eyes turned yellow. I closed my eyes for a moment and when I opened them I offered an apologetic look to the man. "Give me a moment." "Take your time," he replied back and I nodded. The person on the line was June, of course. "Motoko. Thank God you picked up, you need to run now. Something big happened, and some of the tiger claws will be after you." "I know. I'm fine, June, I'm standing across from a Komorebi, but he's you. Run. Motoko, run right now. Komorebi is already leaving." I called out, speaking over June's freakout. He just got a call to head to a meeting and he isn't going to force it with me anymore. "What's going on, June?" I was jumped by a bunch of shitlings, and they dared. He roared into the phone, then he went really quiet. "I'm sorry. This is my fault, Motoko. I'm June. Apologize if you need to later, explain now. Please. It's Yuto. He made another attempt on Kizaru. Kizaru was injured and Murataka Summer is friends with. It doesn't matter. Some of the people involved decided to bring me in front of them as punishment, but Akari. She backed me up. Told me what was up, and we got to Fujimura-sama. He demanded a full meeting, and so things should be calmer, but... She okay? I asked, realizing that Akari could be in a lot of shit for going against orders. That's up to Fujimura-sama. I hope so. But this is getting big. They are holding a meeting. Like I said, a lot of the Oyabans will be there. It's about Yuto, and what punishment I will be given for allowing this to happen. Motoko, I got a message from Fujimura-sama. He is saying you need to come to the meeting too? Why do you need to come? I could tell June was talking outside of the call, sounding distracted. Tell him to fuck off. I grumbled, still staring at Komorebi, who was patiently waiting for my call to finish, his hand near his blade in case he needed to draw again. Motoko. Be polite. Then he went silent again and I just rolled my eyes. Motoko. Did you kill some gangers? Yeah? There were like a dozen that went after me. I replied back instantly. Best if June understands. Fuck. Language. I instantly teased back, but June didn't respond. Motoko. I'm going to this meeting, and you need to come too. We need to offer an apology for you to the higher-ups so they don't put out a kill order for you. June said, sounding serious, but I just scoffed. I'm getting real tired of Tiger Claw assholes telling me what to do today, June, I snapped back, making sure my anger and frustration was apparent. Please, Fujimura-sama says we can get this handled tonight, but you need to come. I tissed, as I considered it, but eventually my desire to not have to fight for my life constantly won out. Fine. I looked around and walked over to Musashi's corpse, pulling the fine scabbard for the katana I had been using out of his belt. A moment later it was sheathed, and I had to look towards the corpses of the assholes around my car to try and remember which one of them I took the second katana from. I slumped and just tossed it aside. It wasn't high quality like Musashi's anyways. Looks like I'll be seeing you again soon. I called out to Komorebi as I ended the call with June and sent a last glance towards him and his chums all standing near their bikes. Perhaps we will get to finish this match another time then. He offered with the sound of someone looking forward to it. Yeah, I'll kill you later. I mumbled back, but instead of offending the man he only grinned at me before turning and climbing atop his bike. This whole situation was a fucking disaster. I looked down at the blade in my hand. Well, at least I got some loot out of all this. Motoko. June rushed me as I parked and practically dragged me out of my car as he pulled me into a hug. June. I whined, but let him check me over. Finally, seemingly satisfied, he looked almost constipated as he tried to find the words. So I ignored him, tilting my neck to look at Fujimura standing behind June. I told Moritaki? I forget, I told him I was going to kill him for trying to kidnap me. I mean it. Fujimura didn't frown or shift at all at my words. Instead he did something much more powerful. He ignored me. That kinda hurt Fujimura. Motoko. You can't kill Murataka-sama. Don't say that again, you'll just cause issues. Do I give off the vibe that I hand out death threats and not mean them or something? It's annoying. When I threaten to kill someone, everyone should be shitting themselves. I take your threat seriously. But you will not unless you wish your brother's life to be forfeit. If you wish to protect him, then come. And do little, and say less. Fujimura finally spoke and I scowled at his words. But he hit my weak point, which pissed me off. It's okay, Motoko. Fujimura-sama is angry as well. I'm his underling, and for another boss to try and go after you and me. It's bad. There might be killing tonight. June whispered the last part and I nodded. Great. Yakuza politics. Just what I didn't want to deal with. Slayed a whole bunch of tigers tonight, did you, little killer? Akari said as she sidled up to me, now that Fujimura was walking off. A bunch of kids led by a moron, yeah. Musashi. Akari stilled and hissed a bit through her teeth. You don't think it was? She asked June, and June didn't react, instead just nodded. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, Komorebi said he was important or something. I wasn't listening. The moron threatened me with shit he shouldn't have. I defended myself, and June just wrapped an arm over my shoulder and Akari just ignored me. Great. Come. Fujimura called and I scowled at being called like a dog, but June was moving and dragging me along. I was pulled in behind June on his stupid Mizuchi while Akari got on her own, and we all followed behind Fujimura's car. While we drove, I sent a message to my chums that stuff was going on with the TC. Just as a heads up, stuff might get crazy. The return messages were soothing as I read their outrage and support. Finally we pulled up to a large skyscraper. Each of us stepped out and into the entranceway and then into an elevator that went all the way to the top. June and Akari both bracketed Fujimura like they were guarding him, which was funny to watch while I stayed aside, giving them all space. I wasn't looking forward to this. Not at all. Just. Don't talk unless you are asked a question, okay? June whispered to me as the elevator opened to a pretty high-end penthouse. As we stepped out, we walked down a short hall that had plenty of Japanese aesthetic choices, up to a door that was already bracketed by guards. To my surprise, they weren't wearing tiger claw colors, besides a few tiny things I noticed. These were the black-suited Yakuza types instead. They both stepped aside as Fujimura stopped forward. June and Akari on each end, and me taking up the rear, which didn't give me great sight of things considering Fujimura and June were both big guys. Stepping in, I noticed to my right there was an outdoor area of the penthouse with an actual sand garden, but my eyes were more caught on the security suite that met us. June and Akari began handing over weapons, although Fujimura, I noticed, didn't have to. You too, Motoko. June offered, and I scowled at the demand. I wasn't about to disarm right now. But Fujimura looked to me, and offered me words that surprised me. Trust me, girl. You and your brother will be safe. Keep the katana, put the rest away. He offered, and I was surprised at the authenticity in his words. I sighed and walked forward, pulling free my boya and placing it into the small cubby they had opened up to store weapons. Lexington went next, along with my knife after they looked at it, and the second knife I kept strapped to the back of my belt. And the third knife that was hidden in my thigh ammo pouch. I had found a lot of knives from Raffen over the time. It was funny how I hadn't really needed them until now. I was going to end there, but June nudged me and I glared at him, before huffing and opening some of my pouches. Frag grenade 1. Frag grenade 2. I looked to June and asked him with just an eyebrow if he was satisfied. Then, armed with just the katana, just like June and even Akari, we headed further down the small hall entrance and into the main room. It was set in a very traditional Japanese style, but I could see the modern peek through. But more interesting was the large tiger claw symbol set into the wall. Done up to look more like a traditional emblem than normal, and under it sat a very good-looking older man. He might have grey at the temples, but he wore his age like aged whiskey, a calm air around him and a very expensive-looking kimono. Yukata? I always forget which was which. It looked Japanese and expensive. As we entered, Fujimura walked very slowly and calmly as if following a path before stopping before the man and offering him a full bow. June and Akari joined him, although I pointedly didn't. I didn't even know who this was, and I don't bow to some random gonk. The three rose and moved across the room, passing many other men already waiting, seemingly for us, including Komorebi, who I recognized despite the man having changed into a kimono as well. Fujimura guided us over to a section where a few of the traditional cushions rested that Fujimura settled all of us on. For once I didn't fight it, and settled into a Caesar that wasn't too bad and just watched the show. I looked over the crowd, old men in suits or kimono all looking at the man at the front. Waiting, although a few glanced our way seemingly irritated. Everything went quiet when the man at the front raised a hand carrying a paper fan. A moment later a group of women in fancy kimono came out, passing out a saucer of sake to everyone. Only once the fan dropped did everyone drink. I wasn't sure if it was rudeness that I was excluded or kindness since I didn't like alcohol. So I decided to not worry about it. Then a moment later the man at the front started speaking. I have been informed about the situation. Normally such things would not require my direct attention, but the seriousness of the allegations merit my personal attention. Murataka, how is your grandson? Kizaru is alive. One of the old men spoke, his voice like gravel, and familiar. Considering I had heard that name before I looked over. The old man was grizzled, and had very obvious chrome over part of his face, a neck replacement, and very high-end karoshi as well. Wealthy and old. That's the sense I got from him. But this is the second time my son has come under threat. There will not be a third. He added petulantly, a threat that was eye-rolling. One of the few that didn't look irritated by the threat was a familiar man sitting next to him. Komorebi, the tiger claw I had fought, was sitting next to him. Our eyes met and I knew the man wanted to continue our fight. Yet despite the petty threat the man at the front of the room nodded. I agree. This matter must be put to rest. But first, there is the matter of honor. Fujimura. Yes, Shinobu-sama. Your man was aware of these assassination attempts before they were acted on? Not as such, Shinobu-sama. Fujimura offered with a bow. While still sitting. Do not lie here, Fujimura. Murataka interrupted and Fujimura simply remained bowing as the leader? Was that guy really the head of the Tiger Claws? Well, he just looked on for a while before nodding. Explain. Junikiru knew the assassin from their youth. Before the man was sent to prison while covering for Murataka Kizaru's actions. My grandson did no such thing. The old man growled, but no one seemed to be interested in that. I guess Yuto was right, everyone knew Kizaru was a piece of shit. Murataka. Shinobu, I guess his name was, said bluntly, and then he looked back to Fujimura. When Yuto was released, he reached out to Junikiru, and did bring up desiring vengeance. For the perceived slight. Fujimura added, stopping Murataka from interrupting again with a quick addition. The boy was not taken care of? Threatening to assassinate one of my lieutenants was not enough to act? Junikiru owed much to the assassin from their youth, and has assured me he denied any willingness to help, and had directed the assassin away from his quest. Hoping to stop this entire series of events. Fujimura offered, ending with a bow. And yet my grandson twice now has nearly been killed. Junikiru had no involvement in that. So he says. I want the assassin, and I want something done about this. For a member of the Tigers to allow an assassin to continue to act without stopping them. There is no accepting this. He rumbled, glaring with his beady eyes. Junikiru, that is true. You knew this man was plotting murder of a lieutenant and did nothing. When Yuto brought it up, he was very drunk. Nakagawa-sama. We were celebrating his release from prison. I denied him, explained to him the foolishness of his words, and instead pressed him to live his life. I even offered him work, as he was once an apprentice to the Tigers as I was. June offered, sounding calm, but there was a hint of nervousness in this voice. So a man calls for the murder of my grandson and you do nothing? Are you a tiger, or some maelstrom plant? Murataka cut in, and Fujimura twitched as June slowly turned to the older man. I am not maelstrom. I have always been Tiger Claw. June offered coolly, surprising me at how calm he was. That was definitely a targeted insult. So you say. Nakagawa, the man in the front grunted, and everyone went silent turning to him. And then, to today I am informed that there was more trouble. Murataka? I sent a group to collect the boy's sister. I wanted to ensure I wouldn't have some cyberpsycho breaking down my door to finish what his friend started. My people were killed. He had been blasé about the response until the end, when his voice turned dark. He looked over at me, and our eyes met. I allowed nothing to show, but my brain was processing ways to murder the guy. Just for fun. This wasn't the time or place for it, but I went through all the ways I could end this man's life. There were a lot. Instead of acting on it, I simply continued to stare, eyes promising death.